This is Banging on the Drum. It is another beautiful day in West Central Wisconsin, and welcome to episode 150 of Banging on the Drum. Please remember to go out there, like, subscribe, download, and we would greatly appreciate it. As always, I'm your host, P-Dog, joined alongside our other host, M-Dog. And M-Dog, how you doing today?
Doing really well, really well. How
So
about you?
I'm doing good. We just got done with a really good interview. That's going to be this episode. So this episode, we're going to call it episode 150, but it's going to be our Brewers special. We're going to kick out another episode this week covering more of the week in basketball, but I think we'll record that tomorrow night. But how did you feel about the interview, Mike?
Interview went very, very smooth. We were able to really dig into what the Brewers can potentially be this year and who's going to step up and who's going to kind of like really become a generational player for us.
Yeah. So we brought the BrewersRaptor on, John Egan. Go out and follow him at BrewersRaptor is his Twitter. And I think if you follow him there, he's got his link tree. I'm looking at it right now, and you can get to whatever you need. But he's a comedy guy, so he does stand up.
In the Appleton, Green Bay area, predominantly.
Yeah. But yeah, he's got some good shit out there. Great follow on Twitter. Always plugged into the Brewers, Wisconsin sports as well. Brewers is more of his sweet spot, but he mentions a little bit of everything, but definitely a great Twitter follower or Twitter follow to follow. But yes, without further ado, let's get into our interview with the BrewersRaptor, John Egan. Now, welcoming to the show a very special guest, a Raptor, a comedian, our friend who's been on the show before, John Egan. How you doing, John?
Great. How about you all?
We're doing good. We're excited to have you.
Yes, we're so close to baseball.
Yeah. You getting all pumped for that?
I am. So I am pumped, but I am already prepared for opening day to be rained out. So I'm like already debating my plans, like to get sure, because right now it's rain for New York on Thursday. So there is a good chance that it will not be until Friday.
Yeah, I'll have to dig into the weather report for that one. So opening day is Thursday, right?
Yes, 28th.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, have me on just in time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think last time we had you on, we didn't do a great job of knowing that you were a comedian. So we want to get our listeners to know you a little bit better. And I guess my first question, we'll keep it pretty basic, but what made you want to be a comedian or do comedy?
Sure. It's actually a pretty like simple one for me. My best friend, when I in grade school, we did movies, we did a bunch of comics, we like shot a bunch of stuff. But I remember very clearly in fourth grade, I listened to Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer, which is probably terrible nowadays if you re-listen to it, because it's kind of like a Bill Hicks ripoff. But me and him, I remember being on the floor laughing, just like hysterically laughing at him. And I was like, I just making people laugh is the coolest thing. And then I was kind of in the dawn of, Comedy Central cable for millennials. And so I kind of just jumped into it and then got into improv and theater in high school, and then jumped into some improv in college, and then got into stand-up. So it's kind of always been a performance type thing.
Awesome. Yeah, that knocked out a couple of questions there. So, but how would you describe your style? So Mike and I have never seen you actually perform, but
sure.
But just style wise, who would you say you took after if you did? I mean, I'm sure you want to be your own thing. So
right. So my style more often is kind of the storyteller type, where I do kind of longer bits where like stories in between and kind of interwoven jokes, and kind of my newer material that I'm working on is that same style where it's like conversationalized, relatable stuff, but then jokes and silly stuff, and you make up stuff as well. I would say like a Tom Segura and John Mulaney, obviously not that level, but more of that, where I'm not doing a lot of one-liners or that sort of thing. It's just kind of jokes and reactions and stuff sprinkled in.
I like that. So just a smooth flow and then funny crap thrown in there along the way.
Yeah, I love crowd work, but it's honestly very hard because it's one of those things you have to have a good situation for it. A lot of times you have to be the headliner, like the last comic, because I'm really good at it and I love doing it. But a lot of times I'll be featuring, or if I'm headlining, it's something random and you never know what's going to happen. And so even like last night, I did a roast where I was a judge, but I also did time up front. And my whole plan was to do a new bit with a bunch of crowd work. And the crowd was kind of spread out and scarce. Like it was still a really good crowd and show, but they weren't like right in the front. So like I had to just trajectory, like just completely switch what I was going to do. And I just went to an old bit that I knew worked so I could get the show moving. But it's one of those things where I love to do it, but you can't really do it if you're below the headliner in case they like to do it, unless you talk to them. It's kind of one of those things that it's kind of like for the last comic. So
That is such an interesting world. It is pretty fascinating to me. Like, so I went to a show recently. I went to see Francis Ellis. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but I think he's up and coming. I don't know
Sure.
what level I put him on. But yeah, he tried to do some crowd work with me, and I go there to like laugh and do stuff. So I would think I would be a fairly good crowd member. But yeah, he had a tough time like coming up with anything for me. Like I was wearing a Buck shirt, and then he just abandoned it. But I'm sure it was hard because he had something in mind, and I went another way, or I don't know what it was, but it was interesting to me. But
Yeah. I just pulled him up. Looks like is he a bar? So he's a barstool guy, and then just doing comedy when he can.
yeah, so I think they got a couple of those guys on their staff where they do podcasts and stuff, but then on the weekends they'll be out doing shows and stuff. But he was great. But yeah, their crowd work. He did two other things with two other people that were great. But yeah, he whiffed on me for some reason. But whatever, not here nor there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you have to be good at it. I think it's a lot of people panic and they kind of feel like they have to almost. But if it's something you don't want to do, you don't have to do it. It's one of those things where it has to be right, natural. And sometimes I'm afraid that comics do it to fill time because they're not at that hour-long show length yet. So it's like, well, this is going to kill 15 minutes of my show that I don't have polished yet. So
yeah, it kind of did seem like he had some sort of formula. Like I'm gonna do three different people and then
Sure.
get back to it. But
Yeah.
well, whatever. So let's get back to you. So so last time we had you on, I think you were just getting off of open mic where someone was third Reiki that was right behind you.
That's right.
But what is your worst experience, I guess, doing stand up?
Oh, geez. I wish I could have one, but well, I guess one that comes to mind is so there's a resort up in Eagle River, Wisconsin, way up north, where they were trying to fill in like new things. So they always had band or like a magician or a hypnotist, and so it was like during the summer or a little bit of the off season. So they always wanted to fill in. But the problem is like their slots were like 2 to 3 hours that they wanted to fill, and so they wanted you to fill that time. And so I know the improv troupe I performed with, they came up there and had a really rough time because they had to do 2 different sets. And so I went up there with a couple comics. I was still pretty fresh. I was probably 3 or 4 years in. There was no business for me to be doing that. So I brought a couple comics up. And the first guy we picked up, the opener, we brought him along. And we're like, hey, I'll give you, $25. You can stay with us, blah, blah, blah. We picked him up at this random bar in the middle of nowhere. Apparently, he was already drunk, so that was a nightmare. Then he played video poker and won like $300 during our sets. Then the second guy goes up. His name was Nate Holzander. He's a great guy. I don't think he does comedy anymore, but he did like 30. And then they wanted to take a break, and then like the crowd left. So then it was just me with like 12, 15 people. And like, and the woman's there like, oh, we got to extend it, dude, like more. And it was just such a nightmare where it was more fun after the show but it was just like, it was something they clearly didn't know what they were doing. And I heard like they started not paying comics because they didn't like it. And then like, I was one of those things where like, I just got the check right away and left. Like, it was like, just one of those things where it's like, hey, you made your bet. You have to lie in it for this one. But
Dang,
I'm
yeah.
first, but it's one I remember for sure.
That does sound brutal, but just getting your bumps on the road in comedy just seems like such like a tough process. Like it's crazy to me that people keep going because I feel like if I did like an open mic and it like hurt my feelings, like it went so bad, like I would have such a tough time. Like
it's rough, man. I mean, you get very low lows. Like I do produce Don't Tell in the Green Bay and Appleton area, and so it's a show series. It's all over the country now, where basically you buy your tickets and you don't know the day until the day of where the location is of your show, and it's like in a local business, and you bring your own beer and you bring all this other stuff, and so the like the last two times that I've done it, I've just bombed. Like I just bombed, like did not do well. Just basically 11 years in, I'm still in my head and can have terrible sets where it just happens, and you have to basically like regroup and refocus, and you get in your head because you have all this material and you get sick of it, but you know that if it's in front of all these people, they've never seen you, so they don't care. I'm the only one who cares about that. So like I said, like last night I went to one of my go-to bits for 5 minutes and it killed because I knew it. It was good. It was polished. I knew it was going to get the crowd going, and it did. It was just like, why did I care? Why did I even not do this? And like, you're just worried about performing the same jokes in front of your peers and your friends. And it's like, you have to remember that screw them. This is about me and doing well on stage.
Yeah, I would assume too, like if you haven't like been to an area or like an area of success where you've done like a special, like none of your stuff would really be burnt. I wouldn't assume, but maybe if you're playing the same clubs and stuff. But that being said, like where's your favorite place you've ever got to do comedy, or one of your best spots that you know it's always going to be a good time or a good crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I started at Skyline in Appleton, so that's like a second home to me. It's been a little while because there's been like there was an ownership change, a couple manager changes, kind of got lost in the shuffle there. I would say my best show ever was at Pasquale's, and I think it's in like, I forgot where in the UP, but it's way up there. It's like Nagani, I think, in UP. So it's notoriously known for the worst motel ever. It is. It's bad. It's a motel, and you bring your own sheets and your own pillows. And like my opener, when I brought her, the door was open because they said they had to get the weed smell from the night before out. Her TV was missing. There was a microwave, but no plate. You know, the plate that spins, that was gone.
Who needs that?
Right. Then they just left it like, you know what, we're going to find a hotel like 20 minutes away. But the place is like always packed for comedy. So they do it right. They have this like corner area that has lights on it, and they had one of those like beer giraffes, you know, the big tall stands you can order at a bar that's full.
Oh, yeah.
And I basically just went, it was just one of those times where I was just like, you know what, if one of you all get me one, we're finishing this. And it happened. So that was like one of my favorite sets. Is like I was drinking this tower of beer during my set, obviously getting more inebriated, but the crowd was like taking a couple drinks. Everyone was into it. It was just like this big spectacle show. And then I like, I finished, as I finished my last joke, I drank the rest of it. And like, it was this big climax, and I have koozies I usually sell. I sold out. That's never happened before. So like, basically I made my money for that gig and doubled it from selling every koozie I had with me. It was just like one of those nights where it was just everything was going.
That is awesome. And then just a random place up in the UP. That's
right.
That's good stuff right there. So are you currently touring? And where could someone go see you that listens to this?
Well, it's really all random. My dates would, if you follow me on social media on there, otherwise it's JohnnyEganStuff.com. And it'll be randomly up there. I'm doing like an improv Dungeons and Dragons show on April 13th. I'm doing a Don't Tell in the second week of May in Appleton and Green Bay. I'm going to Cedarburg in May as well. So it's just one of those things. It's all kind of all over the map. It's mostly Wisconsin, but a couple Minnesota. Usually I'll get up to the UP, Michigan, Chicago area sometimes. So
is your comedy centered around like Midwest comedy?
Yes and no. It's one of those things where I haven't really filtered like that, like the sports angle into it yet, because there are so many people who like aren't into sports. So I can't just be like, Freddie Peralta's curveball, am I right? And they're like, I don't even know who that is. So I've tried to like weave Yelich or Braun, kind of like I've like talked about it a little bit, but I haven't weaved anything into a bit. I call it like relatable because it's a lot of things a lot of people talk about, but it's like different. So I mean, I talk about my wife, I talk about my kids, I talk about like a story of like going to a wedding. I have a story about like these pair of American Eagle, American flag boxer briefs that I ended up just buying more of because they were still on clearance, and like that escalating process of what happens after I bought all these. So it's kind of all over the place. I mean, you could say Midwest, I guess, but I'm not like specifically centered on it for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
And then, so it sounds like most of your stuff happens in the Midwest. Have you ventured out, and how do things fare when you're outside the Midwest?
Sure, I really haven't. I mean, I was even Cleveland. I've done a couple sets in, like Texas on a work trip, in Virginia, but it's kind of harder. You have to know those people, or a lot of times you have to go someplace basically for free and hope you get some spots, and then hope you go next there. So like for me, I'm doing, sets around town already. I'm going to other places. I've got a wife and kids. So it's this big balance act where it's like, I can't just be like, bye, I'm going to this city to hang out for free. So I'm going to spend money on gas or my flight, and then I'm going to go perform, spend money, but I'm going to come back, and then you have to do everything else. Like it's just one of those things like where it's hard to justify that, where I could do it, but that becomes, an issue down the line where I'm just kind of happy where I am. And if things happen, they happen. And also you don't know nowadays. I mean, people become successful, or they hit a couple TikToks, or they hit a video, or they just start doing something, and it goes anywhere. And the big thing about stand-up too is that now every day on Instagram, a new comic is suggested to me that has polished clips that I've never heard of. And I don't like, so there's 5 million people doing content. Now you have to compete with YouTube stars. You have to compete with TikTok stars, Barstool, and then all these actors who don't get roles anymore, all these other people. So now you are competing against all those people. And it basically just comes down to your circle of friends, the connections you make, reaching out, and just kind of filling your schedule with whatever you can, basically.
Yeah, it is a tough field out there, because I think even when we started this podcast, we did not realize how saturated it was. Like I'd listened to like a couple podcasts through Barstool, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we did a Wisconsin sports one. And then we like jumped in and we're like, oh, there's like 10,000.
There's so many.
Like,
that's why my podcast is just called Another Brewers Podcast, because like it just comes up, and like every time I've tried to get into them, I'm like, there's not much going on here. I mean, there's things, but like a lot of people are taking things so seriously instead of just, like you said, making an entertaining sports podcast so someone can just listen to, have fun, laugh, and just move on with their day. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, and I think we've always had a hard time like just kind of finding like our exact lane with all that stuff out there. But I think we're getting there. I mean, we're about 2 years in now, Mike, or something like that, and we just we're figuring stuff out little at a time.
As long as you're having fun, that's all really that matters. And then you hope that an audience comes. That's kind of, I would say my biggest fan base is my Twitter account, and that was just just casually kept going. Lucky switches here and there, doing things. It's just a gradual thing, and it's really where you put out the most content. So if you're sitting there and concentrating on one thing, it's the easiest way to go, but it's also so hard to pinpoint that. So like, because nowadays you can't just have a podcast. You have to have TikToks. You have to have Instagram reels. You got to caption it. You got to have good quality video. You got to go find sponsors. You got to go do this. And like, you basically, if you're not spending 3 hours a day promoting your podcast and also recording it, it's that much harder nowadays to get an ear to you.
Oh yeah. Sure. And I mean, we're two busy ass guys. So it's always like where we have to draw a line too. It's like, hey, we could do this, but we can't go all in. Like we just don't have that.
Right. I'll try to find a clip here and there from an episode of our podcast to put up there. But yeah, it's like it's like because then so I got to sit through the episode, then I'm going to take it down, then I'm going to go to iMovie, then I'm going to edit it and add some music, then I'm going to upload it, and then it's going to have 2,000 views. And I go, why did I do this? That's not enough return, in my opinion, for me to go do all of this.
Well, yeah, that's a hell of a lot more return. You're going to get like 5 extra views after doing this one. So. But anyways, so Brewers, another Brewers podcast. That's what we brought you on here for mostly. And we are going to get into the Brewers questions here. So first one right off the bat. So are you over the Suter situation yet after the Brewers moved on from Suter?
No, but I almost knew that he was going to go to Cincinnati. In my mind, I wanted him to come back, but I almost was like, you know what? He has a house there. His family's all there. He loves Cincinnati. I do follow him and his wife on Instagram and stuff, and they're such great people. And so I just kind of saw a lot of Cincinnati stuff. I'm like, I think if he can get there, he's going to do that. And I would hope someday he's back as a coach, but I can also see him staying in Cincinnati and coaching, like starting like as a bullpen coach or something like that, like how Jim Henderson is now with the Brewers and helping them out. And, Axford kind of came back and pitched that 1 inning and is basically just a glorified coach. And Wade Miley will clearly become our next pitching coach. That's almost guaranteed. But I'm sad, but I get it. It's like one of those things you kind of have to move on from. And it was one of those very cool experiences I wish could have happened longer, but also a good kind of transition to something that it kind of needed to evolve too.
Yeah. Sometimes if you love a guy, you just got to let him go to Cincinnati where he lives. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe
he might. Otherwise, you're going to see him, 20 so times every year. So
nice. So big offseason move here. Greg Counsell leaves the Brewers, goes to the Cubs. So we want to hear your opinion on that. And I seen you got the shirt out first. We'll never forget you, Greg.
Oh yeah. No, I think I did the Greg Counsell spelled wrong on my shirt, but I'm over it. I mean, here's the thing. It was writing on the wall, and like, it's the retrospective thing that you don't know, like you're almost like a hostage in that type of situation, that he was over it last year. Mm-hmm. He was already, I'm 100% convinced he was ready to go to the Cubs or a big market already. And that playoff series, he basically threw it, but didn't. Like he cared, but there was no other reason Jesse Winker pinch hit 2 games. There was no reason Adrian Hauser wasn't on the roster. Garrett Mitchell wasn't on the roster. Rowdy Tellez on that playoff roster. It didn't make sense. From everything that was working in the season was reversed for that playoff series. And I get that, Garrett Mitchell, you didn't want to rush him after injury. Maybe it was a 2-game series. The Diamondbacks were hot, but you had no idea they were going to the World Series that year. We were the hot team going in, basically. And after that, I don't know. It's almost like a 4D chess move to me. I feel like, because as soon as he did that, Mark A got pissed and did all this stuff that he's never done since 2018. And I don't know if that was the jolt he needed, was just a wake-up call of like, this guy that you thought was this loyal guy from Wisconsin and making videos about his home place, and he just goes to the rival because it's the most money a manager's ever gotten. And so for me, I guess, he can smile all the way bank. He's going to get $40 million to coach that team. And they could dismiss him, or he could do great, but he can always still just come back to the Brewers probably at some point. People forget shit, and he's still going to have that $40 million, which will take care of his kids and his family the rest of their lives. And if anything, it's redone the rivalry. The Cubs Brewers is automatically up a level, because there was, everyone was like, oh man, Rizzo's so annoying. Baez, you got Bryant, it's so annoying. Stroman's good, but now it's just, I want to see Counsell lose. That's going to be everything. No one else cares about anything else or any of the players. It's just, can we stick it to Counsell? And that's a great storyline for anything. Sorry, interrupt me if you need me. I feel like
I'm storing a bank of questions to come back with you, but keep going.
So this is my new thing, is that I personally believe there's not enough wrestling in baseballs right now.
Oh, that's brilliant.
There isn't, because that adds everything. Like we were talking about closers, Trevor Hoffman's entrance, Hell's Bells. Now you've got Diaz on the Mets with the trumpets. Like, people aren't doing that anymore. And it's up to the player. You obviously have the right person, but there's no massive entrances really anymore. Like, every team technically could have an entire setup for every closer, or when their star comes out having something crazy happen. And Counsell doing a heel turn is classic wrestling that everyone loves. Like, they need a bad guy. You need a bad guy in a story to have it work. And there was no bad guy. It was the NL Central was bland, and the Brewers were basically, they haven't been fourth since like 2001. Like they have not been bad for a very long time. So this is just an extra added element of the game that's going to make it fun to watch and be there, and it just enhances something the Brewers were missing.
So do you think the Brewers were missing that, or baseball in general was missing it?
I think both. I mean, every team has been hot. There's no like dynasty anymore. The Yankees aren't doing anything. The Padres thought they were going to create this dynasty that just puttered out, and now they're broke. The
closest
Braves
thing we got is the Dodgers, maybe.
Yeah, the Dodgers, they're imploding before the season started. They're moving Mookie Betts to shortstop because they're panicking, and now their top star is going to be a PR nightmare.
Oh yeah,
Ohtani's going to be a PR thing the whole year. We're recording this Sunday night. He's talking to the press tomorrow. They've already announced it, and that's going to be a whole thing. And the conspiracy theories are flying. again, we have a guy who's the top star in the league is in trouble. Like this is wrestling shit. Like
Yeah.
Judge is hurt. Garrett Cole is hurt. Like these people are, it's like the Braves are just sneaking away. The Braves are the corporation with Vince McMahon, just doing business and doing good stuff, while everyone else is just running around hoping for the hardcore championship.
No, I mean that's a good take on it. They do need some shit, and like any publicity is good publicity. Wow, I can't say that word tonight.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess they're getting it there. But I did want to kind of cut back into the Craig Counsell stuff. So do you think where do you think he ended up getting fed up with it? Was it Corbin when they kind of messed with Corbin Burns in arbitration last year? It seemed kind of egregious to me to argue with a guy that's that good in arbitration like that. And do you because that's to me like kind of where he was like, you're gonna mess with my ace in arbitration over what was it like $200,000?
$750,000.
Oh, okay, I guess almost $1 million, but still for Corbin Burns, that's like a drop in the bucket. But yeah, like where do you think he got fed up? Was it just not bringing the guys in he wanted?
That, and I think honestly, I think Hader broke the back, and just because that season was ruined. And then last year too, I think it was just not. I mean, they brought in help late, but they didn't do anything. I mean, they really just coasted on goodwill that first half of that season, and luckily we just had a good team come together and play good enough baseball in a okay division where we could have done some damage and didn't. We panicked again in the playoffs, and again, I think that's Craig already out the door through that series. We should have beat Arizona for sure. And so I don't know, the Burns arbitration to me, I think a lot of people would agree with that. I don't really agree. I think it was just the arbitration process got very public, where in fairness to the Brewers, that is $1 million. They have a low payroll, and Corbin didn't show up for that like last month. I mean, I was at the game they lost where they blew it against the Marlins, where Williams blew it, Burns didn't pitch amazing, and his ERA's dipped. And so I think it was more of a motivation thing. Terrible that I agree. They should have just paid the man. Just give him the $750. Don't make it a thing. Let's move on with the season. And I think it was just those types of moves that it was just a stepping stone to frustration. And I agree. They had 3 amazing pitchers, and we really only had 1 year we could do that. That was 2021. And that we blew it. Our offense didn't show up. And then the next year we trade Hader, and the whole place goes crazy. And then last year, again, offense just didn't show up, and our pitching staff, we lost Woodruff right before the start, and our pitching just gave up. I mean, what didn't Burns give up 5 runs or 4 runs after
something like that?
So I mean, it was just a whole series of little steps that just kind of was something needed to happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, that Hader thing definitely sent a ripple through the locker room. I would have kind of hoped that Craig Counsell had something to do with that, but I guess maybe not. So that's just my dumb.
What do you mean, like, to do with it?
So I would have thought you would run it by Craig Counsell before you're just like, hey, we're going to rip this guy out of your locker room, and just because even Devin Williams coming out after that, you would think like the setup guy would kind of be like, well, yeah, they did that because I'm the guy, or something like that. But even he was like, this is ridiculous. Like Yelich looked like he was going to cry. Like,
yeah, they were. And Counsell, I don't remember saying much. I think he must have been so angry because it was just that was like Stearns' worst like little week ever. Like as a GM, like, trading prospects here and there for these terrible, like Matt Bush and Trevor Rosenthal, and like all these players that just like didn't make sense, because in the long run, yes, Matt Arnold recovered that trade for William Contreras. That was huge. Like that was one of the coolest trades ever. But it was just a massive season. I think we need to get over it. It's just a glaring thing that that it has to be brought up. It's just annoying, but I don't know, trajectory's up, and it's just an annoying thing as a Brewer fan to have to deal with, like something always happening.
So that being said, you think Pat Murphy is going to be able to grab these reins and keep this ship going in the right direction? Because kind of like you said, I mean, we grew up with and I'm sure you're in it too. I don't know your age off the top of your head, but we grew up with dog shit Brewers baseball until the Weekses and the Fielders and Braun came along. And now we've been pretty spoiled as far as it goes, like making the playoffs fairly regularly. Mm-hmm. But do you think Pat Murphy is going to be able to keep doing that for us?
For sure. And he's a transition, I believe. It's clearly they're setting it up for weeks. I don't know how many years down the road.
Oh, I love the sound of that.
But Murphy is a perfect guy. I mean, I would have loved to go get splashy, but also everyone loves Pat Murphy. He's never had a chance to be a head coach. He gets his chance with a bunch of guys who absolutely love him, love his personality. He's better already with the media. If you go to Dominic Scotero or some of the other beat writers, they already love the quotes that they're getting from him. Counsell did not like media talk. He was not good at it. It's very clear he got annoyed with people asking questions. Like even when he got picked for the Cubs and he had his press conference and beat writers were asking a question, he was like literally glaring at them. It's just like, he didn't expect people to be pissed about this. And so I love Murphy. I love his sense of humor. I think he's gonna be way better with the media, talking about things, what's going on, crack jokes. And I like the vibes to me just seem better and newer. And also I think spending money helps with those situations as well.
So I see we bring in Ricky Weeks to be the bench coach. Correct me
Yeah,
if I'm wrong
like
on that.
I think I think it's like an assistant manager. It's like assistant manager or something. Yeah.
Okay, something like that. But what has Ricky Weeks been doing to this point to like be in line to be maybe the next manager? I'm not going to say like, oh, you said he's going to be the next manager, but it just seemed interesting to me because I've tried to get Ricky Weeks on this show and I
Yeah.
keep like trying to track down what he's doing. And I know he was like doing some sort of like coaching seminars with his brother in Florida or something like that. And I didn't realize he was in the business like this.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty quiet, but I know he's been involved for a couple of years with the Brewers. I know they brought him back in to do some stuff and like some scouting and some lower level stuff. But that's also what they did with Council. Council just was like, you know, David Stearns or like Bob Melvin's just assistant. Like he was just like Bob Melvin's like go-to guy to hang out and start learning, and then they just gave him the job. And so I think it's just one of those situations where they have a homegrown guy who likes being there, is well liked, and has a shot to do something where they don't have to go out and get these flyers and panic and get a manager and have him come in and ruin it. Because I think the Brewers have that history of, like Ken Maka, Ron Renicky, that just ruined locker rooms and atmospheres and set teams back. And it's more of a younger, like come up together vibe for the Brewers. That's worked out. So
Yeah, and I mean he's part of the teams that put the Brewers on the map. Like I was just saying, when we transitioned from being kind of a joke into being this serious competitor year in year out. So you think you just want to keep with those guys like Craig Counsell was part of that, Ricky
mm-hmm.
Weeks. So yeah, I guess we can keep it rolling. But I am going to give you one trivia question that I know the answer to off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
Ricky Weeks holds one record with the Brewers. He's the all-time leader in one stat. He might be more than one, but this one, what do you think it would be? If you say the other right one.
Oh geez, no, I wouldn't know. I would say steals. No, but I was gonna say bunts. I don't know. I don't know if he's kind of random.
Hit by pitch. So yeah, it is something random. So
okay, that's
but yeah, he
stat.
did crowd the plate a little bit. So maybe we'll be taking some more hit by pitches this year.
Hopefully, it's different now. I can't imagine Weeks trying to take it with a Strider slider in the shoulder.
Yeah. He's like, guys, just wear these big ass elbow pads and
right?
stand really close to the plate, and we'll be good to go.
Sometimes I don't know how these guys do it, where they have a giant elbow pad, they got like knee things going on, they got the thing that goes down to their chin now to protect him. It's like, how do you see the ball, man? It's inhuman what some of these guys can do with what they're wearing.
See, I think I would like it. You know how there's just like something to feeling very protected, like where you're like, oh, no one can mess with me. So like,
right, yeah, I feel cool. I get
it. Yeah, but that's usually worse. But whatever. Well,
usually.
All right, let's move into. So, how would you grade this offseason? Biggest improvement, biggest losses. Some of these answers seem very obvious, but I just want to hear your take on what we had go on this offseason.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably our best offseason since 2018 when we got Kane and Yelich, and they kind of just knew that they were going to start to go for it. I mean, Hoskins was such a huge move. Do I get why they would sign Hoskins then trade Corbin Burns 2 weeks later? Absolutely not. Should he have been traded? Yeah. It was just a weird series of events. Do I think? I mean, Hall and Ortiz could be absolutely fantastic, and I hope to see it. I love everything they made. I mean, Sanchez was good. Signing Jackson was great for Cheerio, just to have those things, giving a lot of spotlight to the second year players and the prospects. The fact that we got Jefferson Curo and Tyler Black just waiting to come up. And then
I'm excited for Black.
Yeah, Jacob Mizrowski and Robert Gasser and all these guys who are just so close. And the Brewer, we just need to hit something. Like Brewers are just so due to hit this prospect, that a longevity prospect, because it hasn't happened since Braun and Fielder. I mean, Weeks was great. But Weeks and Hardy and Hart, they were just those other guys that played great, but weren't these superstars that were supposed to be. And I think last year you got glimpses for all these guys, but no one really broke out. Mitchell was hurt all year. Weimer struggled a lot at the plate. So did Bryce. Frelick didn't have a lot of time, but he had some flashes. And so, but I mean, then you get throw him in the playoffs, and then a couple times bases loaded, and Sal really just couldn't hit the ball. And so you got a lot of second year players, and that some of the things they brought in should really help. But my major concern is the rotation. It could be fantastic, but also I think we're going back to 2018. We are. I think it's going to be a bunch of outgetters with Freddie and then Freddie Peralta. And I think they're just banking on someone out of DL Hall, Jacob Mizrowski, Gasser, and then hopefully signing or trading for someone to help bolster that roster.
So what is the rotation looking like right now off the top of your head? I can pull stuff up too.
No, you're fine. No, basically what I've seen is they're going Peralta. DL Hall, as of right now, is our number 2 guy.
Okay.
And so Miley, as long as he's feeling good, will be number 3. Then they'll do Colin Ray and then Joe Ross. And then Aaron Ashby is supposed to be a rotation guy. So I think they're going to go with those 6.
Okay.
And
So
then,
6
yeah,
instead of the traditional 5.
yeah, especially early on because they don't know if DL Hall's going to be able to keep it together, if Miley and Ray are going to be healthy, and how far they're going to be able to go. And then Joe Ross, he pitched well this weekend or like this last set, so I'm excited to see what he can do. Aaron Ashby, and then we've got Junkiss too that we signed too, and I haven't really heard a lot from him too, so that could be also thrown in there too. So we could technically have 7 guys who could be throwing around there just to see what happens.
Nice. And so I kind of do like that. And how would you rate our bullpen as it stands now? Because so I'm a fairly solid Brewers fan, where like I see Uribe, Payamps, and Pagora, and I think those guys are just electric. But I don't know if that holds, because to me it's like you have those guys and then you have Williams at the back end of that.
Yeah.
Like you get them to the 6th inning, you're good to go. But
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
No, our bullpen is great, and the issue is now that Devin is gone for 3 months.
Oh yeah.
Is giant, and now we have a rotation by committee and a closer by committee, because McGill could be in there as well. I mean, when you have when you got 2 out of 3 guys who could throw 100 coming at you, that's going to be fun to see when they throw them in, and because then a team can't prepare. They can't be like, well, as the Cincinnati Reds fans call Devin Williams a swing and miss merchant, because apparently their theory for Devin Williams now is that if you just stand there and don't swing, you're going to get on base, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard. So they can try that, like Bryce Harper did with Colby Milner, and just get a K. But yeah, Milner too. So our bullpen is still great, but again, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs these first couple months. It's going to be fun as hell, and I think that's what a lot of people are missing, is that we can be in our Brewer fandom of complaining and the echo chamber of people being miserable all the time. That's what they want to be. But it's going to be so fun this year to see all these guys come up. We're going to have so many prospects coming up. We've got hitters. We've got a bunch of second-year guys who are ready to take the next step as long as they're healthy. We got the second top prospect in baseball on the opening day roster. I mean, this is fun stuff. Like, we haven't seen this in a long time for this team, which is so fun.
Yeah. So I lived pretty close to Pensacola for last summer. So anytime the Shuckers were in town, me and my wife would try to make it to at least a game. So I got to see Tyler Black, and I still want to say Jackson Cheerio. And I'm starting to hear more Cheerio, because at first I wanted to say, well, how are you saying it?
I'm saying Cheerio. Yeah.
Cheerio. Okay. See, I like that too. That's what it looks like to me. And that's what I've been hearing lately, but I was told I was wrong. But seeing those two in AA.
I could also be wrong. It's a joke on our podcast that I say so many people's names wrong that I just plow through it now until someone yells at me. I just go with it. So that's what I've been saying. No one's left a comment to me that's saying, John, stop saying Jackson Cheerio. I'm going to beat you up. I've not heard that once. So until someone says it, I'm good.
Well, and you're a dad, so on our show, we give Mike, I'm not a dad yet. Mike's a dad, so Mike gets to say as many names wrong as he has kids. Because my dad growing up as a kid, it was CC Sebastian when Sabathia was on the team. And he could not get that right to save his life. So as long as you're a dad, you can say the names wrong, as much as you want, in my opinion there. Yeah. But with that being said, though, so there's been a lot of weird news. Mike actually just brought it to my attention before we started recording about Cheerio. Being maybe not the age that he is. He's from Panama, right?
I believe Venezuela.
Okay. Have you heard any of this news? This might be new. Mike, Mike, go ahead here.
I just heard that they think he's lying about his age. I don't know, maybe because he's actually good at baseball or something at a very young age, which we don't see incredibly often, where these 19, 20-year-old guys are coming into the league and being prosperous, right?
Yeah. So I just saw it this weekend. I kind of dived into it because some people posted some things. I saw it first on Brewers Facebook groups like this weekend. And then I saw an Instagram picture where people were doing it under the Brewers post as well. And I think it's mostly just shit posting, honestly, because he's from Venezuela. Albert Pujols is very clearly 5 years older than he's ever said he was. So I think it's that stigma of that. Also, it's a little bit of, as people say, it's a little bit about race as well. I mean, it's not, you don't want to throw it out there, but no one's talking about Jackson Holiday lying about his age.
He looks too young. He looks like he's like 14.
Yeah, but no, he's 20. No one's saying, hey, is he lying about his age? Is he really 12? No one cares that he's up here and doing all these things. And I get the stigma and all this stuff, but it just seems like it's the same type of person saying these things and spreading the rumors. Like, there's this guy who just trolls this Facebook group about Brewers and just already yelling about Jackson's contracts, like just saying, oh, well, he can't catch a fly ball. He doesn't have any home runs in spring training, as if that fucking matters. And so it's just one of these dumb things after another that people have to complain or investigate, or something has to be wrong with something. And hey, if it comes out that they were lying, that's terrible. And I heard that they've been cracking down on that for MLB, and that it's kind of a resurgence that this might be kind of happening again. But until I see proof, you show me proof and I'll be like, that's crappy. That's terrible. Show his real age. But we got other things to worry about than if he's really 23.
Yeah. In my mind, I don't think that it's even that big a deal if he's actually a generational talent. Right. So those 3 years, our contract probably doesn't actually matter with that. If like he's lying about his age and then he's actually generational. Now, if they're not generational, I think that can matter because your window is just smaller. But for the most part, if you think you have a generational talent, you have a huge contract on him anyway.
Yeah, and you have a team-friendly one too. And the fact that if he could be huge, I mean, obviously there's a chance that he does not play amazing, and that would be
Obviously,
terrible.
yep.
And there's a chance, but there's also a good chance that this is a huge steal for them, like the Freddie Peralta contract. And if you look at all his stats and projection, it's the same projection, same stats, same learning lessons that these two players have the same ones. It's Bryce Harper and Ronald Acuna Jr. They're doing okay, in my opinion, in Major League Baseball. So that's why I'm going off of, but I get why people are scared because it's the unknown. The unknown is very scary. If you've never, you never, jumped out of a helicopter or gone off a high dive, like those things are very scary until it starts happening. But nothing would make me happier if he just starts hitting dingers and everyone suddenly, I'm not going to hear about his age or his contract anymore. If a 20-year-old is smashing the ball and running the bases, like if you saw him any play, like go watch the replays from this weekend where he's flying off the bases. It doesn't matter. I don't care what he's doing. That kid's an athlete, and I don't care if he makes errors. I want to see him play. That's the point.
Yeah, and he is going to be a stud. I mean, like you guys said, yeah, sure, maybe not, but I think he's going to be a stud. The age thing to me, though, especially knowing where some of these guys are coming from, like Dominican Republic, like Miguel Tejada, I feel like that was like one of the most egregious interviews of all time where they like kind of blindsided him with that, like on live air. But I don't give a shit if these guys are lying about their age to get out of a situation when they know they can make money for their family. I don't know. It just seems crazy to me that.
Well, baseball's always been a degenerate sport.
Yeah,
I mean, let's admit ourselves. Like Babe Ruth was just an abusive alcoholic who could hit the ball far, and like everybody else.
Okay, too.
No, you're right. He did pitch very well. I mean, like Ty Cobb was one of the worst human beings ever to exist. I mean, that's the thing. It's America's pastime, and it's a fun sport that's just built on degenerates that it's gotten better. I mean, we had steroid eras, which was the most fun baseball's ever been.
Oh, yeah.
Then we
Don't get Mike started on that. He loves that shit.
We had juice baseballs in 2018 and 2019 that we're not talking about. We had a team cheat and win a World Series. Baseball is nuts. And now we're going to be worried if a dude didn't have, wasn't completely honest about his age. I get it though. I get it. We want to clean everything up. Someone actually sent a very good article about it that The Athletic had about Venezuela and players and how baseball is really trying to crack down on it, and that it's kind of almost making a resurgence because there's those new rules. So these like 12 to 15-year-olds, you have no idea what the hell is going on and what deals they're making and the handshake deals and what they're promising to their families, and it's a mess.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's just insane. And I mean, if you're good at something, you can get your family out of a mess. Like I would lie. I would say I was 5 years younger than I was to get somewhere, but I think I'm going too far down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, and if you want an example of like you said, I think the big thing here is the families thing. It's like this sets up families that are people that really need help. Like they did a video on YouTube, the Brewers did, about Freddie Peralta and following him to where he's from and where he lives. And everyone's like, well, he got screwed out of that contract now. It's like, you know what it was? It was a young guy making $15 million. And his house and where he lives is beautiful, and all of his family and friends live there. They all get to hang out, and they are happy. They are happy people because he got this contract and got to take care of them the rest of their lives, and that's all that really matters to them. Like the Freddie's new deal is going to be fantastic. It could come this year, so who knows? It's one of these things.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I think we hammered the pitching pretty good. So we know the rotation's gonna, be a work in progress. Looks like our bullpen's gonna be pretty solid. Let's go defense, because this team's defense to me just seems like it could be crazy good. Turang, what do we got? Let's start. Like, what do we got going on at shortstop this year? Because we did a show, and I think the last time we talked about the Brewers, it looked like Adames was on the trading block.
Yeah, I actually did listen to that part today. We were just already talking about him and Burns being possibly traded. No, Willie's a great defensive shortstop, and that's why I have positives for this year, because technically last year that was his worst year, and the team still won in 92 games, and he was still the home run leader, and that was his worst year statistically, like on base percentage and batting average. And so shortstop, he's great. I don't think you have to worry there. I think they got Ortiz as a backup if they do trade him, if something else happens. But if you statistically for defense, if you look at it, I think they said that if you have a game where it's Ortiz at third, Adames at shortstop, Turang at second, and Hoskins at first, that's the best defensive infield in the league. That's
got to be. Turang is like, I love Turang. I think I got a thing for second baseman, though.
I think you do. All of the evidence that's been presented is pretty clear. Like, if this was a episode, people are like, yeah, we got it. That's the killer. He just talked about second baseman, and second baseman got murdered. So
how often did Bill Hall play second base?
Not very often, but that's my favorite player of all time. So I like utility players and second baseman. So
was he second when he hit under the Mendoza line? Because I was at that game. we all had a little toast to ourselves, like Bill Hall, 198.
Yeah. I don't know. He might have been playing center field then, but
he could have.
He just always took one for the team.
That's true.
But yeah, so defense, like you just said, that infield can look like the best infield in baseball. Outfield, it just feels like we have too much talent in the outfield. And what do you think we're going to do with all that? So we got Frelick, we got Mitchell, we got Yelich, we got Cheerio, we got. I want to say I'm
Perkins.
missing one. Okay, yeah,
Well, that's the thing is everyone complains about this, but the last 4 seasons we've needed more outfielders, even more than we had. And so people need to realize that we need to. And then Sal's going to play third, probably against some lefties a lot this year. And that's what they've been moving on, so he can play. And so I love it. I love that we can use all these guys. Weimer's starting in the minors already. My guess is it's going to be Yelich, Jackson, Mitchell, and Perkins. And then Sal's going to be a rotator guy that can play third and outfield and switch around. So to me, I love it. I'm set on it. I also saw a great article they had about Perkins that he might on it like a dark horse candidate as like one of the best defensive outfielders in the league.
yeah. I mean,
Like
I can see it.
they just saw what he did last year. They liked everything, and it made it a lot easier to get trade Taylor and Hauser to the Mets. So again, that was another weird trade that made sense, but I feel like we could have given away just Taylor for that guy because I forgot his name, but he's another big prospect arm, but he just had Tommy John and won't pitch till next year. So it was like a lottery ticket pick, but to save money and arbitration and all this other stuff. But
Yeah, loading up
it's
with
one
that.
of those easy decisions where
Yeah. So Yelich. I guess my big thing, so third base, how
Yeah.
Sal Frolick's been looking good at third because I always like when Monasterio's in the lineup. And what is the plan with Monasterio? Because it seemed like I'm not looking at the numbers right now, but he was hit for the best average on the team last year, and he played solid defense. So like, were we just slipping him in like when the matchup was in his favor basically, and he took advantage of it?
Yeah, I mean, statistically, he was probably our best rookie last year, and so he's going to play third, I'm sure. So to have him and Ortiz on the roster, I think it's just more about if Terrain can't hit, if Frelick can't play third defensively, if he gets in his head about it. I think it's just so that these guys are there because Monasterio and Ortiz are going to get a lot of looks, and I think it's going to be who can take over that position, and especially since Tyler Black's going to more often be there. I think for the future, you're going to have Tyler Black third, Ortiz at short. Hopefully someone, Monasterio or Terrain, can take second, and then Brock Wilken will eventually be first. And that's kind of, I think, the future they're setting up. And I know Tyler Black can play first too, but
where's Brock Wilken at right now? Is he Nashville or is he on the roster now? I don't
believe he's going to be at Shuckers, but I could.
Okay, sweet. I might be able to go get my personal eyes on him in the scouting report. So I don't want to keep you for too long here. So what I want
he's a third baseman. Oh, is he? I think they're transferring the first.
I got one more question here, quick.
Yeah, go for
it. No, we got more, Mike. But
I got one more, like in this vein.
Okay, go for it.
So we're talking about, like, we win 92 games last year, you mentioned, and this year the win number seems way lower. Our defense looks considerably better. We seem to be okay in the hitting side of things. Is the problem the pitching? Is that what people are looking at and saying they can't get wins if they don't have pitching?
Yeah, that's got to be it. I mean, that's got to be what the Vegas and what all these people are looking at, because it is insane to me that, because I even wrote an article about it, I threw it up on my website. The fact that the Brewers are at 76.5 is insane. Like they won 92 games last year without Woodruff for most of the year. Adames had his worst season. You had Colin Ray and Julio Teheran starting in our rotation most of the year. You had all our rookies not playing great. It was just William Contreras and Yelich like carrying this team with other people randomly popping in, and our bullpen was fantastic. And the fact that you would say that just because those guys are gone, this team's going to lose 17 to 20 games less than last year seems insanity to me. Even if they don't, because we did our predictions last episode of my podcast, and two of us said 85 and 77, I believe it was, and that's not bad. I mean, as of right now, that could win the NL Central, and that's still almost 10 games in what they're predicting us to win. And I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Vegas, as a guy who does sports betting, Vegas always usually knows something. I don't get this one. The NL Central, they're still up like plus 600 to take the Central. That's insanity. Like the fact that they have them at the fourth place in our division, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like Cardinals are already hurt. They're an aging team. They didn't bring anybody on except 30-something relievers. Pitchers. The Cubs added Bellinger back and a couple other people, but they didn't do much. Pirates are signing a bunch of people to trade at the deadline. If you look at the roster, it's all guys for trade bait. That's all they did. And the Reds could be good, but they're still young. I don't think they've got an adhesive unit there yet to be damaged, but who knows? I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean so you said the numbers at 76.5. I seen it at 78.5, whatever, okay. Tomato there. So you're saying hammer the over on this one, put the mortgage on it?
I would. I mean, I've placed a nice bet on the Brewers already, and I might do more, especially if they start playing well. I'll see what that season win goes up to.
All right.
How does a team go to 5 or 6 years of playoffs? They're taking the Central. They're going to all this. How do you just suddenly say, well, they lost Woodruff and now Burns. So there's no way this team can win 77 games. That's that I don't know.
Is Council that good?
No.
No, okay, that's fair. Like I'm asking the real question.
Yeah, do
No,
you think any
Listen.
manager's worth 20 games though? Like that seems insane.
Yeah, you're right. Council probably has a lot of that to do as well because he's regarded as one of the best managers, and I agree, he's great. He revolutionized the game in 2018. They literally changed the rules so he couldn't do what he did anymore. And I just think he got bored. I think he's a good manager. I think that life wasn't there anymore. I hope he's with it in the Cubs and they do good things, but I just want to see it. I don't. See passion. I want to see passion in that man's eyes again. No, I don't. You're right. I don't. I hope they lose 162 games. I
want to see him tuck his tail and have to go back to his house in Wisconsin where little kids are lighting flaming bags of dog shit on his front porch and running away. Ding dong.
Spray painting ass at a park nearby.
Yep. I want to see a complete Kenny Powers. You have to go coach somewhere in South America.
And again, it could be right. It could be an absolute mixing bag of a disaster and fun this year. But in my opinion, they hope for good stuff this year, but I think they're going all in for 2025. I think that's their goal. So that they hope that Hoskins sticks around. They got Woodruff back next year. Gasser's going to be up. Mizorowski's going to be up. We're going to have a healthy, young bullpen. All those guys are going to be 2 to 3 years into the system playing. We can bring up Brock Wilkin halfway through the year. That's what I think they're going for, in my opinion.
Okay, so I got one more question before I ask you about our lineup. So I want to get the lineup, and that's what we'll leave with. But my one confusion is, so we go out, get Gary Sanchez. We've been talking about how William Contreras was kind of the team's MVP last year. I mean, maybe we didn't say it like that, but he sure was.
Invaluable. Absolutely just a stud.
So why do we go out and get some? Is that like a DH spot? I mean, I know so I know you want like a good second catcher on the team, but it seemed crazy to have 2 catchers of that quality on a major league roster.
No, he's absolutely going to be a DH. And then when Contreras gets tired, it's more of it's like Caratini upgrade basically, because they're paying him because he was hurt. So they were going to pay him $7 million. Then the physical came back that he was dealing with something with a wrist. So now it's like $4 million. It can go to 7 with incentives.
Okay.
But he's going to be a Jesse Winker, but hopefully not be Jesse Winker. That's really, and also that we won 92 games with fucking Jesse Winker on our team.
There we go.
I want a documentary about that last season with him and Count. I just want to know what happened because something happened with Winker where I love the guy personally. I loved watching him play. I was so excited when he was coming to our team, and he had the worst season of his career. I don't know what's going on. He made the Nationals roster. I hope he does well. It's just one of those things where he's going to always be a punching line in Milwaukee. I just personally feel bad because he loved being with our team, and it just did not work out, and it was really sad. So
Winker was
right now for DHs on the Brewers. So
Winker was an odd one. I thought we kind of let Weimer struggle a little bit too much. I mean, that was my opinion on Weimer towards the end of the season, where it was like, what are we doing with him? Like, he looks lost at the plate. Like, granted, he's a friggin' animal in the outfield, but it just didn't seem like the guy that we needed there.
It was more desperation last year because Mitchell was supposed to be the guy, and he got hurt, so they had to bring up Weimer. That wasn't the plan. And then I don't think Sal was the plan either. Well, no, so I think Sal was going to be the plan over Weimer. Then Sal got hurt. So he had a wrist injury, and then they had to bring up him in the middle too. I think it was just one of those things where that was not their game plan. It was more of a let's go, let's see what happens. So that's why I think this second year is so big for all those guys: Mitchell, Weimer, Terang, Sal, Monasterio. They got so much to prove, and I think it can only go up in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun one at the very least. Like, it's going to be one of the more fun Brewers teams we've seen in a while, I think.
So, in your opinion, which guy do you feel like takes the biggest step this year? That's second year guys.
It seems like Sal is like the complete athlete, in my opinion. I think that's why they moved him to third. But I personally love, and I know people are already starting to rag him online, and I don't get it. I love Garrett Mitchell. I think that dude has so many things in his toolbox where he's just a good guy, like knows what to do, is there to play, have fun, can hit the ball, has speed, and I really would love him to take that next step because he could cement that center field position for now at least. And if Churio wants that spot, that he can move to right or move to left when Yelich is permanent DH probably next year. And so I'm just excited to see him. I want to see Mitchell succeed so bad. But I don't know. Anyone could surprise me. I mean, if Bryce Terang can start hitting the ball, that dude's going to be incredible. I mean, I'm not even hit the ball. Give me a 250, 12 home runs guy with that defense. Just give me something like that, and we're good.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to come by these years now. Like, when we were watching baseball growing up, it seemed like at least each team had 2 or 3 guys that would hit over 300. Now if you have like one, I guess the Braves had 6 guys do it last year, but that was insane.
I mean, it's more about the pitching too. I mean, the guys that you don't hit anymore, they're changing the rules, they're changing the bags, they're changing pitch clock. Like, these guys are throwing 100 miles an hour at like age 22, 23. They're 7 feet tall and throwing 100 miles an hour. What are you going to do unless you're one of the best players in the game?
I tell you what I do. I'd strike out. I would do the method where I didn't swing the bat.
You know what I do? I'd go have my interpreter place bets for me. So if I knew I was striking out that game.
Yeah, $4.5 million. Yeah, you could get some there. So we will end it with this. So can you give me your lineup that you would like to see? I'm not going to make you guess the opening day lineup, but just
Okay.
batting order for your favorite batting order that we would have. I'm not going to make you do right or left handed because obviously just slip that in there. Like, oh, we're going to have Montecero against lefties. We're going to have Sal Frolic versus righties, but
no, absolutely. So what I threw out something before, and I think people switched it and they convinced me for the lefty righty, even though I don't want it. I think Mitchell starts at leadoff this year. I think Contreras goes second. I think Yelich 3. And Bill and Yelich could swap easily. Hoskins is going to be 4. I think that's the cement that hitter. And then you got Adames and Sanchez at that 5 or 6. I feel like Adames might drop, but also here's the thing: as much as people are frustrated with Adames and they didn't like his batting average and the strikeouts, the dude was still the home run leader. You don't just go, hey Willie, sorry, you're hitting 8th, even though you hit the most home runs for us. Like that
Yep.
In baseball, it doesn't make sense, even if you want it to happen. So I get, so I think 5 and 6 Sanchez, Adames. Then you probably have third base, so Monasterio or Terang or something like that, and then you got to loop back around. And then I think Sal might lead it out. He might like loop back around, so you do Sal Mitchell, so you can loop that thing back around. That seems to work a lot better. And you can throw Terang at 8th and kind of fill in from there.
I like it. I like it a lot. I like having someone to protect Yelich because I mean he did a good job like just getting on base all of last year, but it's going to be interesting if we get to a point where you really got to pitch to Yelich because it does.
Sorry, Cherio's in our lineup too. I'm sure.
Okay.
I think he'll start in right field to start the season.
Yeah, I'm curious. Would you think he would be like 9 then in the lineup?
I'd say 7, 8, or 9. Yeah, they might throw him out. Like I said, I think they can put him at 7, have Terang 8th, Sal at 9, and then move back down to Mitchell. Because if you have that speed on the bases, and then you have Sal and Mitchell on first and second, and then you got Contreras and then Yelich, you should be doing damage. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Yeah, no, I mean it looks like a pretty nasty lineup to me. So this seems like the best lineup that I remember for quite some time. I don't know if it would go back to like the fielder days.
It's not a lot of, oh, I hope they're okay. Like these dudes can play if they're there.
I love it. Well, Mike, do you got anything more?
No, I think I got all my stuff answered. I really appreciate coming on and like clearing some stuff up with the Brewers for me at least.
No problem. Anytime. That's what I get paid the little bucks to do.
Awesome. So go out there, listen to another Brewers podcast. Check your stuff out. Was johneganstuff.com.
Yes, the big one is follow at BrewersRaptor. That's the big one. I have all my link trees right in my bio, so you can follow everything you need to right from there. That's the big one. That's the big account. So big news. I'll drop it kind of an exclusive on your podcast. There is some. I'll tell you all as soon as we stop recording. But both of you. But big news coming soon from my end on something. So that's going to be a little exclusive for your podcast that I can let people know about.
Awesome. So yeah, go check them out. And thank you for coming on. We really enjoyed it, John.
Thank you both. This is great.
All right, stop recording here. And that was our interview with the Brewers Raptor, John Egan. So he had a bunch of good shit that he threw in there. We really appreciate him coming on. He's got some super cool stuff down the pipeline. So definitely go out and follow him at BrewersRaptor on Twitter. And like I said at the beginning of this, you can get to anything from there. He's got his link tree posted in there, so you can figure out all the other stuff he's doing. But he told us off air some pretty cool stuff he's got in the pipeline. So definitely follow him now while you can.
Yeah, great interview by John. We thank him very much. And if you're doubting the Badgers, the Brewers, the Bucks, or the Packers, you can eat our shorts. Roll it.
All them suckers that doubted the Packers can't eat my shorts. All them suckers that doubted the Packers can't eat my shorts. Beat them. All them suckers that doubted the Packers can't eat my shorts. Eat my shorts.